Welcome back to the channel, everybody. It's EricRayweather back here as always, going over everything you need to know about the big upcoming Madden 22 update that's dropping in the next few days. Now, we did get an update a few weeks ago, but just a few days ago, EA did reveal that the next big one would be coming in the first week of November. So probably about 5 days from now, we'll probably see this happen on about Monday or Tuesday at the latest. And this is considered to be like the next true big update for the game. Now, most of you know, if you kind of follow along, there's typically one big update a month for the first few months of the game. There also can be like a secondary update that does drop and usually does come out, but we're really usually focused on that one big one each month, which is where they tackle a large amount of issues with gameplay. It's where they add a bunch of things, make a bunch of changes, and that should be coming within the next few days. So I'm going to let you know everything to be on the lookout for, everything that is most likely coming based on what I've heard. Now, the biggest thing that this update is supposed to be bringing is an X Factor and Superstar update, because after this weekend, we're pretty much officially at the halfway mark of the season. Technically, week 9 will be the halfway mark. This is week 8, but we're basically right there. This is going to be the first update that's dropping near the halfway point of the season. Now, in Madden 20, when they introduced these X Factor players and Superstar players and all these abilities, they actually used to update this more often. They would do it 3 to 4 times that year. Last year, I believe they only did it one time, and it was at the halfway mark of the season. So that is one of the biggest things that we should be expecting. As most of you know, abilities and X Factor players, it's one of the biggest things about the game. Not only is it something people like, to see their favorite players finally get upgraded, to get some abilities, it makes, the whole landscape of the game change, because some people are going to lose abilities, some people are going to gain them. So some teams are going to become a lot better, some teams are going to get worse. Some players are going to finally get the recognition they deserve. And, we know that these abilities are big game changers. So as far as X Factor players go, there's definitely a number of guys that deserve X Factor, but since they only keep it at 50, there's obviously going to be some guys that get snubbed and don't get it. And there's definitely quite a few X Factor players in the game that just haven't been performing that well in real life, so they could very easily lose it. Now, the biggest name guys that I think will likely be finally getting that X Factor bump, I think you got to talk about guys like Josh Allen. I already thought he should have been an X Factor player, but this is his second year in a row really proving that, hey, he is a top tier QB. It really seems fair to bump him up to that X Factor. I think Kyler Murray is another guy that should be in line for this. A lot of people would say he is the leading MVP candidate because he is on the only undefeated team, and he has been leading that team and playing very well. I think he's definitely a guy that you could see get bumped to X Factor. I think Dak Prescott is another guy who's been proving that, hey, he's a legit top tier QB now. Also a guy in that MVP convo that could be going from Superstar to X Factor player. I definitely think Cooper Kupp, after what he's done this year, he's already a Superstar player, but it just seems like he should be that next X Factor wide receiver. He's currently on pace to break Calvin Johnson's single season receiving record, and I know that we do have an extra game this season, so you're going to see more records get broken. But even without the extra game, I think he's still on pace to break it if it was a 16-game season. He's been going nuts, a lot of touchdowns, a lot of catches, a lot of yards. I definitely think he is a shoe-in to jump up to X Factor. Now, when you talk about players going from nothing to Superstar, that's where you usually see more players, because there's a lot more Superstars in the game than there are X Factors. They don't really have a limit on who can be Superstar, whereas with X Factor, it kind of just stays at that 50 number. So there's a bunch of names I could go off the top of my head that definitely should be jumping up to Superstar. You've got guys like Jonathan Taylor, of course, Jamar Chase already. I know we're only, 7 games into his career, but you just can't deny what he's doing. He should definitely be jumping up to a Superstar, because they never usually go from having nothing all the way to X Factor. They usually have to jump up to Superstar first, so I think he's definitely a shoe-in. I think Deebo Samuel is another receiver that you could see easily get Superstar. He's been great this year. Mark Andrews has been a top tight end for the past couple years, I would say, like a top 5 guy, and he still doesn't have anything. And I know they don't really give a lot of stuff to tight ends, but I think you could see him potentially moving up to a Superstar. Trayvon Diggs is, obviously, potentially 7 interceptions. You got to make him a superstar. You got to give him like pick artist or something. That would honestly be perfect. Give him pick artist and maybe like acrobat or something. You know, those abilities that help you get more interceptions, because that's what he's best at. Max Crosby, another defensive guy, I think is definitely a shoe-in. I think he has, I don't think he has the most, but he has one of the highest pressures this season. And, you know, in the past, I think that was something that he wasn't as high as some of the other elite guys. But this year, Max Crosby has gone from good to, I want to say great. He's been amazing this year. He definitely needs some type of pass rushing ability. And I think even guys like potentially Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert, who currently don't have anything, with the way they're playing in their second year, proving that, hey, you know, they're the real deal. It wasn't, you know, sometimes we see rookies have a good year and then they're, you know, they're not really the real deal. They kind of regress. You know, both of these guys have definitely gotten better, and both of them are leading their teams to winning records, and I think they definitely deserve to jump up into that conversation as well. So those are a bunch of names you can expect. Name some other guys below that I'm probably forgetting that should definitely be jumping up with this update. Now, of course, when it comes to gameplay, you're going to always see a ton of gameplay changes with every update. That's kind of the gift and the curse of every update, is you're getting a bunch of gameplay issues fixed, but you're getting things that break even more. I mean, and we saw that with the last update. The last 2 updates, in fact, they fixed some things and then they made a ton of other stuff worse. This last update made like 10 things bad, so I'm assuming they're going to be cleaning a lot of the issues up that the last update caused, and of course creating a whole bunch of new ones that the next update will have to fix. And it's just kind of business as usual for EA and Madden, but there's still some coverage things that need work. They've definitely made coverages better. I will say the last 2 updates overall, they did make coverages better. They've made certain zones better, but there's obviously still more work to be done, and there is still some areas where they did make it worse that they need to go back in and clean up. They need to fix some of the issues with the game crashing, you know, certain things with offenses freezing, with defenses freezing, with you not being able to do defensive adjustments. All of these issues really popped up big after the last update, things that would even make the game crash. I know they did kind of an emergency update to fix a few of these, but there's still a lot of those issues there that they need to be tackling, and I would assume this update will definitely knock some of those out. But of course, like I said, it'll create some new problems, I'm almost sure. We could also be seeing some more player likeness updates. Now, I know with this previous update, we just saw a big batch of player likeness, a lot of rookies and some second-year players finally getting their face scans and stuff like that in the game, but there's still a lot of other players they need to get in the game. A guy we just talked about, for example, Trayvon Diggs is a great example. There's still a lot of those second-year players that still need to be in the game. There's still some other rookies that need to be in the game, and typically with these updates, once you get in like October, November, December, you start seeing a few of those player likeness updates maybe once a month, where they do a batch of like 20 guys. That's usually how they do it. They have a batch they get in at each time. So with there being still a bunch of guys that need to be in the game, even star players like Fred Warner and Darren Waller, which we've discussed, you know, guys like that, there's definitely still a lot of guys that need to get in there, so I would expect some more of those to be coming with this update as well. Equipment is another thing that I'm not going to say is guaranteed, but there's a high possibility. And again, with this last update, we did see them put a little bit of equipment in the game, but at the beginning of the year, they talked a bunch about equipment and some things that they could potentially get in if allowed the time and the resources to do. Now, we don't know if they've been given that time and resources, but there's a lot of things on the equipment and the creation kind of realm of things that they mentioned before the game dropped. Some of those have already come into the game. A lot of throwback uniforms, some cleats and stuff like that they mentioned have already come to the game, but they've talked about making custom cleats, custom gloves. They're talking about, you know, towels and hand warmers and the little things, you know, the different sleeves and things that people have been asking for, the people that like the creation part of the game and the customization. They listed probably about 20 things. So with a bunch of months left, we could still see some of those things come, including in this update here, but it's not one that I would hold my breath on just yet, just something I wanted to mention that could potentially happen. And in terms of franchise mode, I'll be honest, I don't really think you're going to see anything big for franchise, because I think they're going to do exactly what they did last year. In fact, that's what they said they're going to do, is that they're going to have like 3 post-launch updates for franchise. They're kind of spread out every couple of months, and we just got the first big one a few weeks ago where they finally added the scouting overhaul. So if they're going off of the same kind of cadence that they did last year, I don't expect them to come right back a few weeks later with another update that's going to be adding some things to franchise. I think franchise will obviously have some things that are being fixed because, of course, just like every mode and every aspect of the game, there's still bugs and there's still problems. So with franchise, you'll probably see some of the bug fixes, but you won't really see anything new. I would say the next time you're going to see them do something new, or maybe some type of an overhaul, like a small overhaul to something in franchise, you'd probably see that like in December or maybe January, because they usually do those every few months. You can expect some bug fixes for sure, but I don't think anything new for the next couple of months at least. Now that's all for today. Hope you enjoyed this video. Check out some of the other videos right here, and I'll see you guys next time.